My name is Zara, and for most of my life, I believed that kindness could cure anything. As a child, I gave my meat to classmates who forgot their lunch. As a teenager, I took my mother's leftover change to buy biscuits for hungry beggars at the bus stop. My heart was always open, always bleeding. I guess that's why I became a nurse. Helping people made me feel like I mattered. In the white-painted wards of Gypsum Specialist Hospital in Enugu, I found purpose. Healing others gave me peace. And then came Chuka. He walked into my life like a movie scene, confident, smiling, dressed in a crisp navy blue shirt with matching shoes. He was volunteering during a free medical outreach. When he handed me cotton swabs with his left hand and offered to refill 4 drips without being asked, I started to notice him. It took just 3 weeks for him to ask me out. It took 3 years for him to destroy everything. Chuka Onyema was everything I had prayed for, or so I thought. He worked in logistics, loved worship music, and never hesitated to pray before meals. He told me every day, "Zara, you're the kind of woman I want to grow old with." Our Sundays were sacred. After church, we would walk hand in hand at Polo Park, share small chops, laugh about politics and reality shows. He made me feel seen. My mother adored him. My younger sister called him brother-in-law even before he proposed. Then, on my 27th birthday, Chuka surprised me with a beach dinner. Lanterns, soft high-life music, and friends shouting, "Say yes," as he knelt before me. I did. I said yes with every breath I had. If only I knew I was saying yes to a grave. That Sunday started like any other. Church, lunch, and laughter. Chuka had a last-minute meeting, but returned home just before 6 p.m. "Baby, I'm starving," he said, dropping his laptop bag. I smiled, already untying my wrapper. "Let me make ofnsola and semo." "You know I love you," he said. "I know." He kissed me. In the kitchen, I hummed a soft gospel tune while stirring the soup. Life felt perfect. We ate together. He licked his fingers and teased me about how our kids would fight over my food. I was full of joy. Hours later, I woke up full of pain. The pain started like a whisper, just a light ache under my ribs. I thought it was gas. But within minutes, it grew louder. My stomach twisted, as if it were folding in on itself. My tongue went dry. Sweat dripped down my neck even though the AC was on full blast. My skin turned cold, and my hands began to tremble. "Chuka," I called out, dragging myself toward the door. No answer. I stumbled into the bathroom and vomited violently into the sink. It was dark and bitter and full of something metallic. My knees gave way. I collapsed onto the tiles. My body was shutting down. I reached for my phone, but it wasn't there. I always left it on the bedside table. I crawled back to the room. Still no phone. Still no Chuka. "Help, please," I whispered. Nothing. My chest felt tight. I rolled to my side, trying to breathe. The walls spun around me. My heart beat faster, then slower, and slower, and then darkness. I don't know how long I was gone. When I woke up, it was like waking in the middle of a nightmare I couldn't escape. Pitch black. No sound. No space to move. Just stillness. And the smell. Old wood. Dirt. Something floral and artificial, like cheap perfume on a dead body. My body was cold. I tried to move, but my arms were stiff. My legs were wrapped in something tight. My skin brushed against lace. I was wearing a burial dress. My lips trembled. My fingers scratched weakly against the surface above me, wood. My chest began to rise and fall faster. I was in a coffin. Buried. Alive. I wanted to scream, but my voice came out like a cough. I tried to kick, to punch, but there was no space. My nails clawed against the lid. I whimpered. God, please, I sobbed. Don't let me die like this. Then I heard it. The faintest sound of dirt dropping on wood. Shoo, plop. Shoo, plop. They were still burying me. I don't remember how long I lay there. Minutes felt like hours. Maybe I had fallen asleep again. Or passed out. Then, crack. A sudden creak. My ears strained. There was movement above me. Something scraping. Someone digging. Was it real? Light poured in, harsh and sudden. I blinked rapidly. A figure leaned over the coffin, panting hard, her clothes covered in mud. A woman. When my eyes adjusted, I saw her clearly. It was Adizia, my best friend. My colleague. My sister in spirit. She dropped her shovel and gasped, stepping back. Zara. Oh God, Zara. I could barely lift my hand. She fell to her knees, weeping. You're alive, thank God, you're alive. I opened my mouth, and one name came out. Chuka. At the hospital, they placed me under close observation for 3 days. The poison was later confirmed to be a high dose of an untraceable sleeping agent mixed with crushed sedatives. Something only someone with knowledge or access could prepare. Adizia never left my side. She told me what happened. Chuka said you collapsed, she said. He insisted on a quiet burial. Said your mother agreed. No autopsy. No service. Just tradition. But my mother, I whispered. She wasn't even told until the morning of the burial. Adizia had known something was wrong. So she did what no one else dared to do. She followed the burial team. She watched them lower my coffin into the ground behind the rented compound in Zara. When everyone left, she came back and dug me out. Something told me you weren't gone, she said, tears falling. I knew. Chuka was nowhere to be found. He had vanished, switched off his phones, deactivated his social media. His house was empty. My mother called me every hour, sobbing, thanking God. But I wasn't going to sit and wait. I filed a report. The police opened an investigation. Adizia and I presented photos, messages, even my engagement ring. It took 4 days to find him. He was in Abuja, in a hotel room, registered under a false name, with a new woman. She was a widow in her late 40s. Rich. Owner of 2 supermarkets. He was already planning their wedding. The police arrested him that night. When I saw him in court, he didn't flinch. He looked me in the eye and said, "You were never supposed to wake up." The courtroom was packed. My face was plastered across blogs, news sites, and morning radio shows. Nurse survives being buried alive by fiancé. They called it the Coffin miracle. Chuka was charged with attempted murder, forgery, theft, tampering with medical records, intent to defraud. His new fiancée fainted in court when she heard the evidence. Chuka never showed remorse. He didn't cry. Didn't apologize. He stood there like a man who still believed he was smart. He was sentenced to 25 years in prison. They say people don't survive things like this. But I did. The scars aren't just physical. I still wake up at night gasping for air. I still dream of dirt falling on my chest. But I'm alive. I left Enugu and moved to Oka. I opened a counseling center for women. We called it the Second Chance Shelter. Adizia is my co-founder. I no longer wear a ring. But I wear something better, freedom. The freedom to live again. To breathe. To trust, carefully. And to never be silenced. So if you ever feel something is wrong, listen to your gut. If love feels too perfect, ask questions. Because sometimes, the person who kisses you goodnight could be the one planning to bury you by morning. The hardest part wasn't the burial. It was what came after. People stared when I walked through markets. Whispers followed me. That's the girl who was buried alive. They say her spirit refused to die. She must be using something. I didn't respond. I just kept walking. Not because I was strong, but because I had no choice. My body healed faster than my mind. I found myself checking locks twice, 3 times a night. I jumped whenever I heard shovels, even on TV. I couldn't eat alone. I couldn't sleep without Adizi nearby. One night, I asked her, "Do you think I'll ever feel normal again?" She said softly, "No. But you feel powerful. And that's better." 3 months after Chuka was sentenced, a letter came. It was from Kirikiri Maximum Prison. His handwriting. His name on the envelope. I froze. Adizi snatched it from my hands and read it aloud. It said, "Zara, I don't hate you. I just saw an opportunity and took it. I loved you in the beginning, I swear. But love doesn't pay bills. And when the other woman came along, I chose money. That's all it was. You were just collateral. I hope you understand one day. Chuka." I didn't reply. But I kept the letter as a reminder. Love without conscience is a weapon. Her name was Mrs. Adoni Soloko. She came to see me. She walked into the hospital one rainy afternoon wearing a red gele and black shades. Her face was tight, proud, but tired. A woman who had faced her own shame. She removed her glasses and said, "I was the woman. The one Chuka was going to marry." I nodded. I believed him when he said you died of cardiac arrest. I paid for the casket. I even met your mother, and lied to her face. I didn't know. She paused, trembling. I came to say sorry. I looked at her for a long time, then said, "Forgive yourself. He fooled all of us." She left a donation for our shelter. 2 million naira. Blood money. But money for healing. The Second Chance Shelter opened its doors fully 5 months after I rose from the ground. At first, just 3 women came. One had been poisoned by her husband. Another was thrown out by her in-laws. The third had fled from a pastor who claimed she was possessed. Word spread fast. Soon, we had 20 women. Then 40. Then a waiting list. People donated food, clothes, even a small bus. Every time I told my story at a seminar or TV interview, women cried, not just for me, but for themselves. Because sometimes, the grave isn't always 6 feet deep. Sometimes, it's a bedroom. One Sunday morning, I visited the compound in Nsukka. The burial site was still there. The hole had been filled in, but the dirt was still loose, still haunted. I stood in silence for a long time, looking at the space where I had been dumped. I bent down, placed a white rose on the ground, and whispered, "Thank you for not keeping me. I wasn't ready to die." Behind me, a little girl from the compound watched curiously. I smiled and waved. That same girl now visits our shelter once a week with her mother. She wants to be a nurse like me. 2 months after the shelter went viral online, I received a call from a journalist in Lagos. "Zara," she said. "There's something you need to know. One of your shelter volunteers is giving interviews behind your back. She claims she survived the burial, not you." My mouth went dry. It was Chinya, one of our newest staff members. I confronted her gently. She broke down crying. "I'm sorry," she said. I wanted to matter too. No one notices me." I didn't shout. I didn't curse. I simply said, "You don't need to steal someone's grave to earn your story." She left that day. But I forgave her. Because pain wears many disguises. One morning, while walking through a pharmacy, I ran into Chuka's younger brother, Ebuka. He froze. I didn't. He said, "Zara, I'm sorry for what my brother did. My family, we didn't know the full story." I nodded. "You know now." He hesitated, then added, "He's suffering in there. He talks about you all the time. Like you're some kind of ghost haunting him." "Good," I said, and walked away. Some people don't deserve closure. They deserve to remember what they tried to bury. 1 year later, I met Kolechi, a quiet doctor who came to donate malaria drugs to our shelter. He didn't flirt. He didn't push. He listened. He asked about my work before asking for my number. He respected silence. For 6 months, we talked without labels. We walked the streets of Oka, drank zobo by street corners, and danced at midnight when the city slept. One evening, he said, "I don't need to fix you. I just want to walk beside you." That was when I knew healing had begun. Not because of love, but because I could finally receive it. It came slowly. Not all at once. But one night, while I lay in bed and rain tapped softly on my window, I realized something. I wasn't afraid of sleep anymore. I wasn't afraid of darkness. I wasn't afraid of waking up in a box. I closed my eyes and drifted off, not into nightmares, but into rest. And when I woke, I smiled. Because I had survived. My name is Zara Nwankwo. I was buried alive by the man I loved. I rose from the dead not just to live, but to lead. My story is no longer just mine. It belongs to every woman who survived betrayal. Every soul that came back from death, be it emotional, spiritual, or physical. I tell this story not for revenge, but for redemption. So that no girl ever trusts too blindly again. So that no woman forgets her worth in the arms of a smile. So that graves will no longer hold the living. Because sometimes, coming back from the dead is how you learn to live. And that brings us to the end of our story. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell. Thank you for watching.